Chapter 2120. The battle is not over. Chapter 2120. The battle is not over. This holy demoness is too terrifying. In her first battle with Aeon Light, she hadn't even used her full strength. When Sheng Mai fought with Aeon Light, what she relied on to win was the Holy Scripture. And in her battle with Aeon Fire, she utilized her deep ice force field to win. Because of this, one couldn't help but think that Sheng Mai never tried her best to begin with. She could win with skill, and even in frontal combat she was no weaker than a true divinity-level abyssal. Formidable strength, profound laws, her dark angel bloodline, that horrifying pair of black wings, and even that mysterious bone sword that might even be at the beyond divinity level. So many dreadful strengths had been distilled in a single body. Such a woman was simply far too terrifying. If this woman were given time, then in 100,000 years I have no idea just what step she would grow to. The ultimate peak of true divinity-level abyssals. If she also underwent the abyssal ritual, it's hard to imagine where she would be. Many abyssal elders watching in the audience were left bewildered. Sheng Mai had reached greater heights than they did, and in the future she might even become the ruler of the abyss. The truth was that Lin Ming was also secretly astonished as he watched Sheng Mai. Compared to 12,000 years ago, Sheng Mai had grown far too much. During these years she must have experienced many things, and in terms of laws, foundation, and all other aspects, she had undergone a qualitative chain. If this continues, then wouldn't Sheng Mai? A thought suddenly flashed through Lin Ming's mind. Currently, the Soul Emperor should still be in seclusion refining the eternal soul. If Sheng Mai could pass the abyssal ritual, then she would surely become a true divinity-level abyssal. With her strength in addition to all the potential that would be dug out by the abyssal ritual, would there be a chance for her to wrest free from the Soul Emperor's control in the future? This thought only appeared for a brief moment in Lin Ming's mind before it was shot down. He had a faint feeling that the Soul Emperor might be the most terrifying character he had ever seen in his entire life. Even if the Soul Emperor was in seclusion, he still wouldn't allow Sheng Mai to flee his grasp. It was even possible that Sheng Mai had come to the Dark Abyss on the orders of the Soul Emperor. For instance, perhaps the Soul Emperor wanted to use Sheng Mai to obtain one of the totem-level abyssal inheritances. Lin Ming didn't know what the Soul Emperor's plans were, nor did he know what the totem-level abyssal inheritances were, or how they would be useful to the Soul Emperor. If his speculations were true, then just what level had the Soul Emperor's strength reached? Lin Ming found it hard to imagine. It shouldn't be beyond divinity, right? That is impossible. Lin Ming shook his head. To step beyond divinity, there was no way it was that easy. As Lin Ming was lost in thought, Sheng Mai's eyes fell on him. After defeating Aeon Fire, Sheng Mai didn't leave the stage but stood on the Deep King wheel and continued to stare at Lin Ming. Her vision was like a sword of light, thrusting straight into Lin Ming's eyes and heart. Lin Ming returned her gaze, silently looking back at her. The corners of Sheng Mai's lips faintly moved. She didn't use any sound transmission, but Lin Ming could see what her meaning was from her eyes. It seemed that she was saying, "I am waiting for you." Many people noticed that Sheng Mai was looking towards Lin Ming. It's actually that fellow. The holy demoness is looking at him. That fellow has really struck the bad luck jackpot this time. Originally, the holy demoness should have no reason to care about such a minor and unimportant character, but it seems that the holy demoness will not let him go. The holy demoness has always been proud and arrogant, and she seems particularly sensitive to people who dare to propose marriage to her. It seems that even though their battle will be utterly lopsided, that fellow will still be brutally beaten up by the holy demoness. He might even die. If he dies, then he dies. When the holy demoness laid down the rules in the past, she said that anyone who proposed marriage would have to sign the life and death contract. With the holy demoness' current strength and status, the ancient Aeon sect wouldn't do anything if she killed a mere Empyrean-level elder. The present Lin Ming had already become a clown in the hearts of many abyssals. Because Sheng Mai had won 3 continuous matches against true divinity-level elders, Lin Ming's match against Sheng Mai was now nothing more than a farce. The truth was that at this time, the several elders from the ancient Aeon sects felt their cheeks burning. In particular, when Sheng Mai looked their way, they all wished that they could find some hole in the ground that they could worm their way into. Two of their true divinity elders had been defeated by Sheng Mai. And there was also Lin Ming. After a few more days he would fight with Sheng Mai. She could already annihilate true divinities, so who cared about an Empyrean? Eon Moon, everything is up to you. You must win, the great elder said to a tall and burly abyssal near him. Eon Moon was last remaining hope of the ancient Eon sect. If you also lose, then our ancient Eon sect will have not even a single victory. If so, then not only will we lose all face, but once we enter the demon god's tomb we will be placed in a completely passive position. Within the dark abyss, the laws of the jungle were applied where the strong ate the weak. The strong became stronger and the weaker became weaker. With 6 totem-level influences, the reason that 2 of them were able to break out of the pack and stand out was all because they were strong enough that they could continuously occupy more resources. Like this, they could become increasingly terrifying. I understand. Eon Moon grit his teeth. As the final hope of the ancient Eon sect, he felt a great pressure on his shoulders. However, the one next wasn't him, but an elder from Nine Nether Palace. This abyssal elder had also chosen to challenge Sheng Mai. His strength was inferior to Nether Nihilities, and even ordinary when compared to Eon Fire. There was naturally no suspense into the result. Sheng Mai won. This was also Sheng Mai's last match. Like this, Sheng Mai won all 4 of her matches, 3 which had faced her and 1 which had admitted defeat. Such success was too dreadful. Someone at the limit of an Empyrean has won 4 straight matches against true divinity-level abyssals. This is simply unprecedented in the past and unrivaled in the future. An abyssal elder from a small influence sighed deeply. Now, within the entire dark abyss, there wouldn't be anyone who doubted how bright Sheng Mai's future was. In time she would eventually become the top powerhouse of the entire abyss, and at this time the final match was ready to commence. Eon Moon stepped on stage. This would also be the last match of the competition. The abyssals from the ancient Eon sect felt their hearts tighten. They paid close attention to Eon Moon. This was a battle they absolutely could not lose. Eon Moon's opponent was an abyssal demon from Deep King Road that seemed relatively weaker. Of course, this was only relatively speaking. Of all the elders who originated from Deep King Road and were able to represent Deep King Road to enter the demon god's tomb, none were weak. Eon Moon put forth his full effort in this battle. He didn't immediately reveal his trump cards when he stepped, nor did he use any moves that underestimated his opponent. The battle proceeded in an orderly manner, which probing strikes gradually growing stronger, move countering moves, feints and surges. In addition to some plans, Eon Mon tried everything he could to defeat his opponent. However, the Deep King Road elder wasn't some weakling. Facing Eon Moon's steady onslaught, this elder also followed step by step. The 2 abyssal elders were cautious in their moves. There didn't seem to be much difference in their strengths. And in such a situation, the battle between the 2 abyssals continued for a long time. They fought for an entire day, consuming a great deal of their energy. Even so, when the fight reached a deadlock, a change suddenly occurred. When the Deep King Road elder clashed with Eon Moon once more, just as he finished attacking, a black fluctuation of energy shot out from between his eyebrows. This black flow of energy seemed to be the soul of some fierce demon. The demon's soul flew into Eon Moon's spiritual sea. As this demon's soul struck his spiritual sea, Eon Moon let out a cry of grief. As if he were possessed, he began to violently shiver. The Deep King Road elder took advantage of this split second to flash in front of Eon Moon and smash his claw down on Eon Moon's chest. Puff! Eon Moon cried out miserably as he was sent tumbling away. The 2 abyssals had used up around the same amount of energy. Now, this heavy strike was enough to decide victory and defeat. As a result, the Deep King Road elder won. After this occurred, the abyssals in the audience fell silent for several breaths of time. Then, they began to seethe with excitement. That Deep King Road elder had clearly been raising something in his mind, something similar to an ancient evil soul. This ancient evil soul wasn't too powerful, and if Eon Moon was in his peak state, then it wouldn't have been able to harm him at all. But because Eon Moon had consumed most of his strength, this ancient evil soul was able to rush in and become the last straw that crushed Eon Mon's back. And, The Deep King Road Elder was able to take advantage of this brief paralysis to defeat Aeon Moon. This was likely already planned from the beginning. Aeon Moon's choice to take the fight in a steady and orderly manner was likely gladly accepted by his opponent. With this, the ancient Aeon sect lost all 3 matches. For a time, the abyssals of Deep King Road raucously cheered. Some abyssals from smaller influences had gloating expressions on their faces. As for the several elders of the ancient Aeon sect, their complexions were beyond ugly. It had to be known that 9 Nether Palace had won 1 match, whilst their ancient Aeon sect had suffered total defeat. They had not only lost all benefits but also their face. This was no different from giving the enemy army all one's soldiers and wives. Ha ha ha. Elder Aeon God, well fought. On the side of Deep King Road, the middle true divinity elder presiding over the competition chuckled. Our skills are inferior to others, so we are sincerely convinced of our losses. Aeon God barely managed to maintain some semblance of composure and uttered a few polite words. And behind Aeon God, the other disciples of the ancient Aeon sect fidgeted around, obviously wishing to leave as soon as possible. These disciples could clearly hear the discussions of the abyssals all around them. When a wall was about to collapse, everyone wanted to give it a push. All these small influences fervently wished to see a spot amongst the 6 totem-level influences open up. After all, Aeon had long since died and the Book of Aeon had disappeared without a trace. It was time for the ancient Aeon sect to let go of their position. Let's go. Aeon God waved his hand, turning to depart. There was no meaning to staying any longer. The longer they stayed, the more they would suffer the ridicule of others. The ancient Aeon sect disciples all felt relieved. They hurried to stand, wishing they could teleport out of this place as they didn't want to stay a single moment longer. However, as the many disciples of the ancient Aeon sect stood up, a cold and enchanting voice rang through the entire audience. Just where are you going? The battle has yet to end. The abyssals present were stunned. They turned to see that the woman speaking was a woman wrapped in fog-like darkness. She was Deep King Road's holy demoness. Chapter 21-21, Facing Sheng Mai. Chapter 21-21, Facing Sheng Mai. Millimeter. Elder Aeon God paused. He glanced towards Sheng Mai, a restless premonition in his heart. Sheng Mai faintly said, "Your ancient Aeon sect still has an elder that wishes to challenge." Then, we might as well begin today. As Sheng Mai spoke, her gaze fell on Lin Ming. For a time, Lin Ming became the focus of attention for every abyssal present. All of them turned towards him. Many of these abyssals recognized Lin Ming and knew that this was the fellow who had a mere Empyrean cultivation and wished to jump ranks to challenge Deep King Road's holy demoness. Then, the abyssals present had entertained expressions as they looked at the complexions of the abyssals from the ancient Aeon sect. For such shame to fall upon others, this naturally caused these abyssals to be happy. Deep King Road's holy demoness truly doesn't care for the feelings of others. This battle is clearly bullying, and yet she isn't willing to let it go. True, but this punishment is to serve as a warning for others. In truth, with just the strength that the holy demoness displayed today, there should be no one willing to mention marriage to her in the future. An elder from a small influence said with a gloating tone. At this time the complexions of the several elders from the ancient Aeon sect were incredibly ugly. They all wished they could dig a hole into the ground and hide away. By this point, this battle was no longer humorous to them. Even Aeon God already started to regret designing this trap for Lin Ming. Now, not only would Lin Ming be ruined but their ancient Aeon sect would be disgraced and mocked by others. Elder Aeon God managed to force out a smile. With his right hand he touched his chest, his long black nails joining together in a common bow of etiquette amongst the abyssals. He said, "Your Highness Holy Demoness indeed loves to joke. Victory and defeat is already clear to all. At the limits of an Empyrean, Your Highness Holy Demoness is already able to defeat a lower true divinity abyssal. This sort of accomplishment is more than enough to be called the #1 elite of the entire Dark Abyss, so what reason is there to do something so unbefitting your status as fighting a young elder from my ancient Aeon sect? Moreover, our elder also lacks in cultivation and was only dragged here to make up for numbers. If there was any way that we offended your highness holy demoness before this, then I personally apologize. Eon God politely said to Sheng Mai. From between his words, he was clearly implying that if Sheng Mai were to truly fight Lin Ming, then she would simply be disregarding her status to bully someone far weaker. Eon God thought that with Sheng Mai's arrogance and pride she would surely make a show and not blame anyone in this matter. Moreover, he had even apologized and admitted defeat. However, he never thought that Sheng Mai would seem as if she never heard his words at all. She continued to look at Lin Ming, and, what left Eon God and the other elders of the ancient Eon sect the most speechless was that Lin Ming was still sitting in meditation where he was. As if everything occurring around him was irrelevant. This caused the ancient Eon sect elders to nearly stumble to the ground. Just what was he still doing here? Eon God sent an impatient sound transmission to Lin Ming. Brat! Have you gone mad? Have you seen the strength of these deep King Road abyssals? Just give up any thoughts of entering the demon god's tomb with the Book of Eon. He originally placed a trap for Lin Ming because he wanted Lin Ming to suffer a little bit of hardship. And now, all the abyssals present had witnessed Sheng Mai's strength on their own. As long as Lin Ming wasn't stupid, then he would know that taking the Book of Eon to enter the demon god's tomb was no different than walking into his own death. If Lin Ming were to regret his choice and draw back, although it might be a bit ugly to look at, it was still far better than being beaten senseless by Sheng Mai. At least the Book of Eon would be safe after this lesson. However, Lin Ming simply ignored Eon God's sound transmission. He slowly rose up, his feet planted down and his toes pushed forwards as he faced Sheng Mai. Sheng Mai's lips curved up, her expression seeming to say, "I knew you would accept the challenge. Are you really planning to fight?" Eon Light could see that demon power already surged through Lin Ming's body and he stared at Lin Ming as if he were looking at a monster. This Lin Ming still wanted to fight Sheng Mai in such a situation? Had he gone insane? Or was he just far too stupid? Lin Ming opened his mouth and said, "Your Highness Holy Demoness. I should refer to you like this, I suppose. Are you one of the people entering the demon god's tomb on behalf of Deep King Road?" Sheng Mai was startled. She didn't know why this abyssal elder who wished to challenge her would ask such a question. "Why do you ask?" Sheng Mai didn't directly respond. But, Lin Ming continued to say, "Millimeter. If I'm not wrong then that should be true. In the abyss, strength is revered above all, and this true divinity level competition was arranged to assign resources based on strength. If your Highness Holy Demoness was to obtain one of the core spots of those entering the demon god's tomb, then that would be a position truly worthy or your reputation and outstanding talent." As Lin Ming spoke, all of the surrounding abyssals, including Sheng Mai, were bewildered. Eon God glared at Lin Ming and sent him a sound transmission. "What nonsense are you speaking? Hurry up and draw back, or are you really so stubborn about dying?" Lin Ming disregarded Eon God. He continued to say, "According to the rules of this true divinity competition, the division of resources is based upon the respective levels of strength of those that will enter the demon god's tomb. Then, does that mean if I possess strength similar to that of your Highness Holy Demoness, I will also enjoy equivalent treatment?" Lin Ming spoke so much before finally saying his goal. Since his battle with Sheng Mai was destined to occur, then he might as well win a chance for himself and bring the Book of Eon into the demon god's tomb openly and proudly. His words, whether it was from logic or truth, all were impeccable. These were indeed the rules for which the alliance was based upon, in which strength would determine everything. It was fair and just. However, with Lin Ming's current status and the present situation, for him to say such words before he stepped onto the battlefield seemed as if he had gone mad. As a result, the many abyssals watching were all left wide-eyed. What did he just say? If he possesses strength similar to the Holy Demoness, then he can also enjoy equivalent treatment. Because Lin Ming's words were too outrageous, many abyssals weren't able to react for some time. For some reason it seemed as if this ninth elder from the ancient Eon sect hadn't yet realized that he was no opponent of Sheng Mai's from the start. Not only was he still dreaming of holding this beauty in his arms, but he also wanted to enjoy similar treatment upon entering the demon god's tomb. Was his mind normal? This arrogant and ignorant fellow, just how could he stand there and still challenge the Holy Demoness? At this time, The abyssals of Deep King Road felt the entire situation worth a good laugh. I never thought that this elder from the ancient Aeon sect would have such a unique personality, a Deep King Road elder said. As an ancient Aeon sect elder heard this, his face turned green. Now, all of these ancient Aeon sect elders wished they could jump on stage to beat up Lin Ming to prevent him humiliating them any further. Even Sheng Mai was startled. She realized that there was something special about Lin Ming, but this was something that purely came from some inexplicable touch of intuition. Still, she never believed that Lin Ming had the qualifications to fight her. Now with Lin Ming saying such words, they had left her surprised. But surprise was only surprise. She still answered Lin Ming's question. If you can truly defeat me, then according to our previous agreement you can hold the grand jewel cultivation ceremony with me. From this alone you will be considered half a disciple of Deep King Road, and in addition with the contract of this alliance, you will be able to enjoy the same treatment as me. But, do you think you can defeat me? As Sheng Mai finished speaking, her eyes began to glow with a chilling light. Although she thought Lin Ming was special, this didn't mean she desired to dual cultivate with him. In fact, when it came to dual cultivation or marriage, no matter which abyssal had proposed it, Sheng Mai would crush them without hesitation. Millimeter, I understand then. The words that Your Highness Holy Demoness speak should be considered a promise. Lin Ming was afraid that Sheng Mai couldn't take responsibility for such words. His gaze turned towards the Deep King Road elder standing not too far from Sheng Mai. At this time, the Deep King Road elder was already at a loss for words. He simply looked at Lin Ming like he was looking at a babbling fool. Just where had this crazy fellow jumped out from? Because all of the Deep King Road elders were stunned, no one replied to Lin Ming. He frowned, asking once more, do they or don't they? These words caused many abyssals to roar out laughing. This was really far too hilarious. As for the elders of the ancient Aeon sect, they all wanted to fall to their knees and beg Lin Ming to step down. Why was he insisting on keeping up such a charade at this time? Would it hurt him to say a few less words? Yes, the words of the Holy Demoness can be considered as correct. Deep King Road's elder Deep Epoch nodded, beaming with delight. As long as you win, then during this venture into the demon god's tomb, the disciples there will take you as a core figure. Millimeter, understood. After obtaining the approval of Deep King Road's many elders in public, Lin Ming wasn't afraid that he couldn't bring the Book of Aeon in anymore. In the next moment his figure flashed like gods and ghosts as he appeared on the Deep King Wheel, directly facing Sheng Mai. Chapter 21-22, Battle of Proud Elites. Chapter 21-22, Battle of Proud Elites. Sheng Mai came fluttering down onto the ash-grey Deep King Wheel like a black butterfly, landing 100 feet away from Lin Ming and gazing at him. A single parting had lasted 12,000 years. After meeting her so suddenly, even Lin Ming didn't understand how he felt towards this woman who had deeply affected his life. At this moment it would be wrong to say that there were no waves of emotion in his heart. But, it was just that these waves of emotions were hidden deep within, so that on the surface all that showed was a calmness as still as a placid lake and eyes that were as sharp as swords. Opposite Lin Ming, Sheng Mai was also quiet. She slowly released her aura so that it covered the entire Deep King Wheel. And compared to the battlefield platform with its thick and roiling killing intent, the situation beneath the stage was actually filled with raucous noise and the sound of laughter. For the abyssals watching, this was a fight that no one could take seriously at all. In this sort of environ, the elders of the ancient Aeon sect felt their livers hurt, their stomachs hurt, and their entire bodies ill. At this time, a pair of pitch-black wings unfurled from behind Sheng Mai, opening like the tail of a black peacock and then wrapping around her flawless figure. Sheng Mai's eyes gazed upon Lin Ming, a burst of brilliance flashing from her eyes. As Sheng Mai displayed her wings, this caused the atmosphere in the audience to calm down a little. Originally everyone thought that this battle would last but a moment, and at most Sheng Mai would make a single move. However, what happened left them startled. Sheng Mai released her Dark Angel wings, which proved that she would at least use her Dark Angel bloodline. To deal with a mere upper Empyrean abyssal, was this really necessary? And at this time Lin Ming also drew out his own weapon, a black bone spear. In fact, This bone spear was the black dragon spear, but at this moment the black dragon spear was covered in a layer of thick bone. This was demon bone that was divided from Lin Ming's demon avatar. Not only did it completely wrap around the black dragon spear, but it caused the spear to be a great deal thicker, longer, and heavier, giving it an incredibly ferocious and hideous appearance at the same time, as if it were a spine pulled out from some giant. With this giant spear combined with Lin Ming's towering abyssal figure, it seemed just right. Sheng Mai didn't recognize the concealed black dragon spear. But, as she saw Lin Ming's spear stance, a strange feeling stirred in her heart. At this moment, Lin Ming moved. His entire being was like a divine spear hidden in a wooden chest for countless years, covered in dust. As he left the chest, divine light bloomed, shooting through the entire audience. This was clearly only light produced by energy, but this light passed through the protective force field of the Deep King Wheel and cast down a massive pressure on the abyssals present. This is... what? The noisy audience suddenly quieted down. Without enough time for the abyssals watching to think, Lin Ming had already rushed in front of Sheng Mai. The spear in his hand came crashing down and the thick bone-like shaft bent like a real spine as it whipped towards Sheng Mai's waist. Because of this spear, a part of the Deep King Wheel force field supported by 12 totem poles was forcefully twisted. Millimeter. Everything happened in a spark of time. Sheng Mai's pupils contracted. She thought that Lin Ming's strength might not be ordinary, but she didn't expect his first move to be so formidable. This spear strike was simple and without any elegance at all, but as it barbarically twisted the Deep King Wheel force field, it reminded her that this spear strike was in no way inferior to the strike of a lower true divinity level abyssal. This mysterious abyssal had a lower cultivation than she did, and yet he was able to send out such an attack. Whoosh! Black sword light flashed. Sheng Mai slashed her bone sword down upon the bone spear. But because of the massive weight of the bone spear and the incredible disparity in size between the two weapons, Sheng Mai was sent flying away. Her figure was like a black bird that was sent floundering in the air. Her feet rapidly moved as she stepped on the edge of the Deep King Wheel force field to release the terrifying momentum behind Lin Ming's strike. Beneath the tremendous impulsion, every step she took on the light barrier caused ripples to spread out. And at this time Lin Ming chased ahead. With his far larger figure, the scene of him rushing towards Sheng Mai was like a hawk chasing a rabbit. Bang! Lin Ming's spear ruthlessly pounded downwards. Sheng Mai avoided the strike and the spear crashed into the light barrier. The Deep King force field violently shivered beneath Lin Ming's horrifyingly great strength. Bang! 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 Lin Ming brought his spear pounding down again and again. Every strike was incredibly quick, but Sheng Mai was like a willow leaf fluttering in the wind, barely managing to avoid every dangerous strike. All of these terrifying attacks were withstood by the Deep King force field. This Deep King force field was strong, but beneath the continuous barrage of attacks, even though each attack was only at a single point, it still trembled more and more as if it would tear apart at any moment. Seeing the light barrier around the Deep King Wheel tremble like a soap bubble in the wind, ready to pop at any moment, the abyssals watching were all left staring with wide eyes. At this time their expressions were filled with utter shock, bewilderment, and disbelief. Their faces were twisted into things that seemed like complex array diagrams. Was this the strength of an Empyrean-level abyssal? No matter who was asked, that Empyrean abyssal, the ninth elder of the ancient Aeon sect, was considered an idiot by all. Yet he possessed such brute force. They thought it brute force because many abyssals didn't want to acknowledge Lin Ming's true strength. Thus they subconsciously explained the reason for why the Deep King force field was shaking as being because of Lin Ming's brute force. After all, they had all laughed at Lin Ming and called him an idiot, but if he wasn't the idiot, then it was obvious who the true idiot was instead. No one wanted to admit that they were an idiot. Thus, even with reality placed before them, none of them wanted to acknowledge Lin Ming's strength. But soon after they could no longer find a reason to console themselves. Crash! Howling winds rose up from all over. Sheng Mai's wings flapped and her speed rapidly increased. Her figure turned into a blurry shadow, so fast that most abyssals present weren't able to follow her movements. Sheng Mai was fast and her comprehension of the laws was high. This was recognized by all. Her only deficiency lay in her physical strength. However, none of the abyssals present thought that even in this situation, the ancient Aeon sect's ninth elder would be able to keep up with Shungmai in speed. His figure also vanished into countless afterimages. Like rising black mist, everyone was covered in layers of darkness. In terms of speed, the two of them were matched. This basically surpassed the standards of the overwhelming majority of lower true divinities. Not only did Lin Ming possess horrifying physical strength but also terrifying speed. From these two aspects alone, that was more than enough to contend with a lower true divinity abyssal. In the layers of light, brilliance dazzled outwards. Lin Ming and Sheng Mai were like two meteors arching through the heavens, chasing after each other. This scene was gorgeous to the extreme. All of the abyssals watching were left speechless. This ancient Aeon sect's ninth elder was no different from a monster, someone even more abnormal than Sheng Mai. Sheng Mai was at the limits of an Empyrean, but this monster was only around an upper Empyrean. The playful and taunting expressions that covered the faces of the elders of Deep King Road had stiffened a long time ago. As for the other small influences, the abyssals that had been expecting a good play were all left staring blank-eyed, as if they had seen ghosts. And the ones most shocked were the elders of the ancient Aeon sect. Just now they had all been restless and uncomfortable no matter how they stood or sat, and the gaze of the countless abyssals around them felt like countless ants crawling over their bodies, causing them to wish to crawl into the ground. But in the blink of an eye all of them were frozen like statues, their eyes staring straight onto the afterimages atop the Deep King wheel. Was that monster really from their ancient Aeon sect? Was that really their ancient Aeon sect's ninth elder? All of the ancient Aeon sect abyssals were filled with disbelief. Before coming to Deep King Road, they had all been in contact with Lin Ming for a long time. But, never once had they imagined that Lin Ming would be so abnormal, that he would be an upper Empyrean capable of fighting a true divinity. This sort of talent perhaps couldn't even be found in ancient times 10 billion years ago, but an elder they had randomly picked up from nowhere had actually possessed such terrifying talent. The curtain of light trembled more and more, each attack causing it to resonate. Not only were there Lin Ming's attacks, but also Sheng Mai's. Bang! A loud explosion rang out. Lin Ming and Sheng Mai collided in the void. The entire curtain of light blew apart before slowly drawing back. Although the curtain of light didn't shatter, the horrifying spear light and sword light that rushed out caused all abyssals below the true divinity realm to be covered in a cold sweat. That sort of feeling was like someone pointing a weapon between their eyebrows. It was too terrifying. Chapter 21-23, Demon Azura. Chapter 21-23, Demon Azura. On the Deep King wheel, Lin Ming and Sheng Mai stood 200 feet apart from each other. The two of them motionlessly stared at each other. Only the demon power that burned like blazing flames and icy fires upon their weapons reminded everyone just how intense the battle just now had been. You, just what are you? Sheng Mai's frosty voice reverberated through the audience. She was well aware that it was impossible for a higher abyssal like Lin Ming to appear out of nowhere. However, no matter whether it was this person's abyssal bloodline, aura, techniques, or whatever else, she still couldn't find any clues about him. This abyssal gave off a strange feeling. He only calmly stood there, but he was like a deep pool lying still in a mountain, an eternal proud son of heaven looking down upon the world with disdain, carrying with him an inexplicable and unknown invincible spirit. Lin Ming remained silent. He only raised the black dragon spear, the barrel shaft crackling with bone. At this moment the black dragon spear in his hands seemed to become a snake made of black bone, containing an incomparably powerful strength as well as a cunning attack trajectory. Lin Ming felt more and more desire for this battle. This enigmatic Sheng Mai was no different from a riddle, and she had entangled herself in his life in countless ways. And she, for the last 10 billion years, was one of the proudest elites, whether it was in the Dark Abyss or the 33 Heavens. She was someone that could step on that supreme road to become a horrifying character like the immortal sovereign. This was a match that was fated to be, and it would begin today. Lin Ming took a deep breath, his dark amber-brown pupils slowly contracting. The power of demons formed a black snake around him that wildly weaved about. At this time Lin Ming's true self was sitting in his demon avatar's inner world. Above his true self, 9 brilliant stars manifested. This was the 9 stars of the Tao Palace. Facing Sheng Mai, Lin Ming couldn't switch out to his true body to fight, nor could he openly use the laws that were well known by Sheng Mai. Otherwise, just relying on the intuitive sense of familiarity that Sheng Mai felt towards Lin Ming, as well the laws that were unique to Lin Ming, how could she not guess his identity? As the 9 stars of the Tao Palace appeared, the strength of Lin Ming's true self rapidly rose. All of this strength was constantly fused into his demon avatar to bolster it. Whoosh! Lin Ming's figure vanished in the void. With overwhelming potential, he rushed towards Sheng Mai, his demon body fused with his bone spear, forming a heaven-shattering and earth-sundering divine light. After Lin Ming's demon avatar was fused with the 9 stars of the Tao Palace, the intensity of his mortal body could compare with a true divinity spirit treasure. He thrust out his spear towards Sheng Mai, a billowing momentum following it that seemed as if it could pierce through the endless universe. The abyssal laws interwove with the strength of the 9 stars of the Tao Palace, spinning together like a river of stars and forming giant black stars that swirled atop the spear shaft. This spear possessed an overwhelming potential and suffocating oppressive force. The surrounding abyssal disciples couldn't help but tremble. They felt that this spear light contained a strength that could devour them whole, and they started to retreat in panic. Even the complexions of many true divinity abyssal elders changed. Facing such a powerful strike, Sheng Mai's eyes burst out with brilliance once more. The dark wings on her back glowed with an icy metallic luster as demon runes bloomed on each one, light stars that floated atop them. Go! Dark wings soared upwards, rapidly folding in to directly welcome Lin Ming's earth-striking blow. Arrogant and filled with incomparable confidence, facing Lin Ming's powerful attack, Sheng Mai only relied on her invincible dark angel wings to meet him. Bang! Dark wings collided with the blinding divine brilliance of Lin Ming's spear light. Like 2 stars crashing together, billions of abyssal runes were annihilated as threads of abyssal laws shattered. This massive impact force caused the Deep King force field to violently rock yet again, as if it would tear apart. As the totem poles that supported the force field had to withstand the pressure, 10,000 demonic spirits seemed to suddenly howl. Demon energy soared to the heavens as shadows rose up, as if a peerless ancient abyssal were reaching through the endless river of time to protect the force field. War drums sounded like thunderbolts, humming in the air. An even more formidable demonic force field strength raged out to stabilize the Deep King force field. However, Lin Ming's attack hadn't yet ended. With a loud shout, Lin Ming activated the power of the Azura blood in his demon avatar's inner world. Thick scales covered his body, and behind his true self, the phantom of an Azura war god emerged. Within this war god phantom's hands, 3 wheels slowly revolved like grinding pans. This was power of the Azura Sutra. Peng, peng, peng. 3 wheels shattered, turning into countless runes that fused into Lin Ming's demon avatar's body. All of this occurred within the demon avatar's body, so the many abyssals watching didn't know. At this moment, all these abyssals saw were the muscles of Lin Ming's demon avatar crazily wriggle about. His joints released explosive crackling sounds, and his towering body began to rise once more. The bones and scales on Lin Ming's body became harder and increasingly fierce. A pair of curved horns jutted out from his head. Lin Ming's demon avatar had turned into a ferocious Azura demon. The changes that appeared on his true self were minor, but after manifesting on his demon avatar's body, they became exaggeratedly terrifying. Underneath the pressure of so much strength, many abyssals felt their eyes pop wide open. Higher abyssal body metamorphosis. The abyssal demons were similar to the saints in that certain clans amongst them could undergo body metamorphosis. After metamorphosizing, they would experience a rapid rise in all aspects of strength. The truth was that body metamorphosis wasn't strange, in particular higher abyssals with outstanding levels of talent. This shouldn't have been enough to stir up any interest, but the crux of the issue here was that Lin Ming had already shown far too abnormal a performance just now. An upper Empyrean was able to fight a true divinity-level opponent to equally match with Sheng Mai. And yet, Lin Ming even used body metamorphosis atop all of that. Heavens, this fellow is simply a monster, an abyssal elder from a small influence said, his voice shaking. The current Lin Ming could no longer be described as being able to defeat a lower true divinity. He might have the strength to fight against a peak lower true divinity. Could he really be able to defeat the holy demoness? The ancient Eon sect's elder Eon god whispered, his wizened face frozen in place. If one defeated Deep King Road's holy demoness, then they would be able to obtain this number 1 elite of the Dark Abyss, someone that might even control the abyss in the future. Lin Ming, Sheng Mai. Both were proud children of heaven, and if they were to dual cultivate, then their cultivation speed would rise to a new level. That time would arrive before long, perhaps even as soon as 100,000 years. At that time, just what heights would they be at? Moreover, if they could pass the abyssal ritual of the demon god's tomb, just what would happen then? Elder Eon God found this hard to imagine. In fact, not only did the abyssals watching the battle atop the platform react with shock, but even Sheng Mai herself paled. Again, Lin Ming bellowed. He pulled up the black dragon spear, grasping it in both hands and thrusting forwards again, and what this spear stabbed at was Sheng Mai's pair of dark angel wings. This scene caused Sheng Mai's abyssal fans to cry out in alarm. The wings of a dark angel were indeed powerful, but no matter how powerful they were, they still had their limits. In other words, Sheng Mai may not be able to use her wings to block this strike. And if the attack was too great, then her wings might even break. In this critical moment, Sheng Mai's eyes sparkled with a cold light. She slapped her hands against the void and countless crystalline ice flowers appeared. In that moment she had formed millions of law seals. Each law seal contained the source strength of extreme ice. A freezing atmosphere swept over the world, forming a wall of ice that was thousands of feet high. Deep ice domain. After undergoing 9 revolutions of reincarnation, Sheng Mai's mortal body had reached perfection and her strength was tens of thousands of times greater than before. She had comprehended the ice laws to the limit, and now she could even freeze and smash apart the Great Tao itself. But as Lin Ming's all-shattering spear crashed into the wall, he barraged it with an onslaught of attacks, crushing it apart as if he were breaking down a planet. The bone spear shot out again and again without end. Compared to Sheng Mai, Lin Ming's body was like that of an eagle pouncing on a sparrow. As the ice wall was about to break, Lin Ming grabbed the black dragon spear and thrust forwards one last time. Catcher! With a loud explosive sound, the ice wall shattered into countless pieces, causing the many abyssals watching to hold their breath. Lin Ming's spear collided against Sheng Mai's black wings. Kai! A grating sound filled the air. Beneath the impact, the bone spear bent like a bow. Sheng Mai used her left arm to prop up her wings, and with her right hand grasped her sword to resist Lin Ming's attack. At this moment, her dark angel wings were now covered in faint rivulets of blood. Chapter 21-24, Life-Reaping Sword Strike. Chapter 21-24, Life-Reaping Sword Strike. Heart-shocking blood flowed down from Sheng Mai's black wings, dyeing them with traces of red. Lin Ming's powerful and fierce demon avatar, Sheng Mai's delicate and beautiful figure, the two of them formed a blinding visual contrast. The spear seemed as if it would pierce through Sheng Mai's wings and stab into her body. The many abyssal elders watching this battle were all left dripping with a cold sweat. The black dragon spear had bent into a crescent moon and Sheng Mai was also forced back to the edge of the light barrier. However, the scene was frozen in this moment. After Lin Ming's strike was weakened by the deep ice domain, less than half of its original strength was left remaining. Finally, it was successfully blocked by Sheng Mai's wings. Its momentum had been ended. Without the impact of energy, it was naturally impossible for the spear to pierce through Sheng Mai's dark angel wings. Lin Ming slightly frowned. In the end, because his true self couldn't appear, then regardless of whether it was the 9 stars of the Tao Palace he used or the Azura blood, if he couldn't display it outwardly and had to funnel the energy through his demon avatar, then there would inevitably be losses. At this moment a warning signal flared in Lin Ming's mind. He rapidly stepped back in space, hurriedly retreating. Wang. Borrowing the strength of the black dragon spear unbending from its curved form, Lin Ming shot back like an arrow, his speed rapidly reaching the extreme. But during this time, Sheng Mai's bone sword appeared in front of Lin Ming without warning. The bone sword's sword light was even faster than Lin Ming's retreat. Above the sword blade, energy and laws wildly surged. Tens of thousands of rays of light wove together and formed blood-red lotus flowers that seemed to swallow all light. An ordinary and simple sword strike carried with it an unfathomable vastness, a strange power that seemed as if it could pierce through space and crush time. Lin Ming's flesh and skin seemed as if it were already pierced through by this bone sword, making his heart race. And no matter how quickly he drew backwards, the bone sword followed right after like a homing bird. If he slowed even just a bit, then the bone sword would pierce right through his head. Like a sword of judgment that presided over life and death, this came from the life and death laws that Sheng Mai cultivated. A single sword strike, it would not return without severing the soul and life. With a distance of only an inch apart, Lin Ming could feel his protective demon essence pierced through and his forehead already dripping with blood. As this minor wound appeared, Lin Ming could feel his life force slowly fade away, drawn out by the strange bone sword. With the presence of the death laws, all things in existence would wither away, all life would be annihilated. The life force in Lin Ming's body was similarly being swallowed by Sheng Mai's death laws. Her Highness the Holy Demoness has used her laws. Many abyssals from Deep King Road began to stir up. Relatively speaking, Sheng Mai's physical strength and abyssal body were weaker. Her speed lay somewhere in the center, and what she excelled in the most were the laws. And for the vast majority of abyssals, their weakest aspects tended to be the laws. In particular for a towering and powerfully built abyssal like Lin Ming. With such a potent bloodline and mighty physical body, it was likely that he had to pay for this with a smaller spiritual sea, making it so that perceiving the laws would cost double the effort with half the results. Perhaps from here on out the tides of battle would turn. Many Deep King Road elders were looking forwards to what would happen. In fact, over 95% of the abyssals present hoped that Sheng Mai could win. Sheng Mai had countless legions of fans and they were already accustomed to her awesome talent. As for Lin Ming, the abyssals present only felt envy towards him. Only the ancient Eon sect faintly hoped that Lin Ming would be able to win. If so, then they could draw closer their relationship with Deep King Road and obtain even more advantages from the demon god's tomb. One running, one chasing. The Deep King Will wasn't large and because of the confinement of the force field, the space within was small and narrow. However, to Lin Ming and Sheng Mai this wasn't a problem at all, because during the rapid pursuit both of them constantly used the space laws and thus for them space had already lost all meaning. But no matter how swift or deft Lin Ming was in shuttling through space, Sheng Mai's sword remained locked onto the point between his eyebrows. Holy scripture laws. A bright light sparked in Lin Ming's eyes. Sheng Mai's sword was completely reflected in his deep brown eyes, just like an image in a clear mirror. With a thought, a bloody demonic eye drilled out from between Lin Ming's eyebrows, like a rock gushing out of lava. The gaze of this demonic eye carried with it a strange demonic charm, as if it could see through all lies and illusions. Then the gaze of this demonic eye fell upon the bone sword. This demon eye was the fused form of Lin Ming's Davic Idao Palace and 3 live pupils. However, after joining together his true self with his avatar and using the power of demons to transform it, this eye had gained this appearance. Lin Ming already had some understandings into the Holy Scripture laws. Now, beneath the gaze of the demon eye he was able to see everything clearly. The myriad laws atop the bone sword were all perfectly balanced in his vision. Sheng Mai's attainments in the Holy Scripture laws far surpassed Lin Ming's. But that didn't mean Lin Ming couldn't catch up to her. At this moment the technique that Sheng Mai used was completely recorded by Lin Ming's Davic Idao Palace and 3 lives pupils. It branded itself deep into his memory, through his eyes and into his mind. Lin Ming closed his eyes and when he opened them once more, they radiated a blinding divine light that could pierce through all puzzles. By relying on his own understandings as well as the Davic Idao Palace, he could find the most vulnerable point in Sheng Mai's attack. Whoosh! The black dragon spear pierced out once more. The pitch-black spear swelled with roiling flames. Like a roaring bone dragon, it hurtled towards that singular point. The black dragon spear was a divine weapon refined by the Azura Road Master. Although it wasn't the weapon used by the Azura Road Master's true self, it was still incomparably powerful. This spear drew in the surrounding demon force field, causing thousands of black suns to erupt on the spear point and causing black light to flood through the audience. Jong! The black dragon spear collided with Sheng Mai's bone sword. Sheng Mai's sword that had recorded the ability to chase after life and death suddenly started to slow down. The lore runes that lingered upon the blade began to burst apart, instantly shattering into thousands of pieces. Peng! Runes danced in the air, dissipating like night stars fading in the morning skies. Sheng Mai's complexion changed. How was this possible? She never thought that in this situation, Lin Ming would be able to counterattack and see through her move. She had used the highest laws, so how had he managed to break through them? Was it just a coincidence? Before Sheng Mai could think about what had occurred, Lin Ming's second spear strike came towards her. Zheng! Another collision occurred. This time, Lin Ming didn't choose Sheng Mai's weakest point, but one that was only relatively weak. This was because Sheng Mai's sword potential had already been broken in half in his first spear strike. As for the remaining amount, Lin Ming could calmly deal with it. He didn't need every spear strike to hit her weakest point, because doing so would definitely arouse her suspicions. After all, the Holy Scripture laws weren't easy to see through. Now, Lin Ming didn't want to expose too much of himself, lest Sheng Mai produce too many associations about who he truly was. If Lin Ming couldn't use continuous spear strikes at Sheng Mai's weakest point to break through, then he would use an increasingly wild barrage of attacks instead. Spear after spear, in a moment Lin Ming had already thrust out 100 times, like flowers in a storm. Sheng Mai felt her arm go numb. She suddenly froze. Peng! More and more runes burst apart in the skies. Sheng Mai's hair wildly danced in the air as her eyebrows pressed tightly together. Lin Ming had taken the initiative against her, and as for her, she actually felt strained. What shocked her the most was that at this point, Lin Ming hadn't used brute force to suppress her, but had used his understandings of the laws. How could this be? Although Lin Ming's following attacks seemed wild and ferocious, the truth was that his attacks avoided the strongest sections of her own. The only difference was that it wasn't as exquisite as his first spear strike. Hum! 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 Crazy and fierce spear strikes stirred up a savage tornado in the middle of the abyssal force field. The wind pressure tore through the air, colliding with the force field and causing it to moan. The hellish pressure released by the two fighters on stage caused some of the weaker abyssal disciples watching to feel pressure. Some of them had no choice but to summon the demon power within them to resist it. Humph! Deep King Road's elder Deep Epoch coldly coughed. He raised up his own force field, allowing these weaker abyssal disciples to catch their breath. But at this time, Elder Deep Epoch's complexion was considerably ugly. Even being suppressed by the 12 totem poles, this ancient Aeon sect's 9th elder was still able to display such might in his attacks. Just where had he come from? If things were to continue like this, then it wouldn't be long before this 9th elder surpassed him in strength. If this 9th elder wished to marry Sheng Mai, then perhaps that wouldn't be bad at all. The best result would be that Deep King Road would gain yet another top proud elite of heaven. In the future, this 9th elder could stand by Sheng Mai and the two could dominate the abyss. But, the crux of the issue was, could he be of the same mind as Sheng Mai? All sorts of thoughts flashed through Elder Deep Epoch's mind. And at this time atop the stage, Lin Ming had already occupied the winning side. The Black Dragon Spear continued in an unstoppable offensive, an onslaught that flowed forwards like liquid mercury. As for Sheng Mai, she was forced to retreat again and again, and the life and death laws atop her sword light had already been scattered by Lin Ming. Chapter 21-25, 9 Revolution Red Lotus. Chapter 21-25, 9 Revolution Red Lotus. Catcher. Life and death runes shattered, causing a rain of light to fall from the skies. Sheng Mai had condensed the Holy Scripture laws onto her sword. Now with her sword strike broken by Lin Ming, the Black Dragon Spear continued to push forwards, thrusting straight towards the point between Sheng Mai's eyebrows. Sheng Mai had already been forced into a dead end of the Deep King force field without any way to retreat. And, the powerful energy that Lin Ming released also locked down the surrounding void so that the space laws couldn't be used. In this moment Lin Ming suddenly slapped the Black Dragon Spear in his hands, crazily pouring demon energy into it. A bone dragon formed from demon energy formed on the ferocious spear shaft. It wildly roared and hurtled towards Sheng Mai with unstoppable momentum, wanting to swallow her whole. In this critical moment, many abyssals cried out in alarm. Some even thought that Sheng Mai might perish beneath this strike, a fragrant jade that would shatter to pieces. After all, the scene occurring on the stage of battle was like a massive demonic flame about to burn away an exquisite feather. Strong against weak, hideous against beautiful, this intense visual impact shocked the mind. This ninth elder of the ancient Aeon sect was too terrifying. In front of him, even the invincible Sheng Mai seemed delicate. Who? Demonic flames rolled upwards. In that instant, Sheng Mai closed her eyes. She no longer dodged, and nor could she. Between her eyes, the 9-petal lotus flower mark began to spin. A faint source of energy began to appear from within, as if a world was being bred within it. Time came to a standstill. Just as the fierce dragon spear was 3 inches away from the point between Sheng Mai's eyebrows, a brilliant black demonic light burst out, weaving together into a massive lotus flower pattern. Every flower petal seemed to form its own small world, each one filled with birth and destruction. Sheng Mai's grand reincarnation art was far more thorough than Lin Ming's. After this lotus flower formed, every flower petal had condensed the power of desire and hope from each one of Sheng Mai's reincarnations. The 9-revolution lotus flower spinning, this was the same as 9 Sheng mice striking out together. Catcher. The black dragon spear thrust into the heart of the 9-revolution red lotus. The spear shaft curved, but it wasn't able to go any further. Then, Sheng Mai moved. That strange and mysterious bone sword fused into her arms. Sheng Mai's 5 slender fingers gathered together as she thrust an arm towards Lin Ming's chest. With the bone sword entering her body, sword and man had become one. Sheng Mai's sword fingers directly shattered the roiling demonic flames that surrounding Lin Ming. That bone dragon gave a screeching howl before it burst apart. Sheng Mai's fingers were bathed in the light of the 9-revolution red lotus. Lin Ming's heart shook and he quickly withdrew the demon power he sent out through the demon avatar before storming backward. However, Sheng Mai's sword fingers were too fast. They instantly pierced through the void and shot past Lin Ming's protective demon essence, soon about to penetrate his body. Even though Lin Ming's demon avatar had an incredibly intense mortal body, it would still suffer heavy losses if pierced through by these sword fingers. This was because Sheng Mai's sword fingers wouldn't simply pierce through him, but the terrifying strength and laws contained within them would also have to be withstood by his body. If that were to occur, victory and defeat would be settled. In that spark of time, Lin Ming crossed his arms in front of his chest, using the bone blades on his elbows to resist Sheng Mai's attack. Catcher. The sword point struck the edge of Lin Ming's elbow bone blades. On Lin Ming's arms, the 3-foot-long bone blades shattered into pieces. The sword fingers continued without stopping, piercing through Lin Ming's scales and passing through his right arm, but relying on this brief resistance, Lin Ming also changed the trajectory of the sword fingers. The sword light finally shot into Lin Ming's left shoulder. Blood shot out. Lin Ming grimaced. The strength contained in these sword fingers wasn't simple at all, it included the life and death laws. The strength of the sword fingers broke into his body and turned into sword energy. This sword energy was able to grow continuously and it recklessly shredded apart the energy within Lin Ming's body. Even so, this sword energy didn't weaken much. This naturally originated from the laws of life. At the same time, the sword energy was incredibly tyrannical, absorbing Lin Ming's vitality with overbearing might as it exhausted his blood and withered his muscles. The life and death laws were used together. If an ordinary abyssal were to be touched by just a little bit of this strength, they would have likely lost all combat efficiency. Even Lin Ming felt severe pain rack his body. The meridians within his body became disorderly as if all of them were about to break apart. His body was sent rapidly tumbling backwards 1,000 feet beneath the force of impact. Bang! With a loud crash, Lin Ming struck the light barrier of the Deep King force field, causing it to violently tremble. Lin Ming coughed up a mouthful of blood. Grabbing the black dragon spear, his giant body plummeted onto the Deep King wheel. Jiyu Dong. The Deep King wheel wildly shook. Lin Ming lifted his head upwards. He never thought that while Sheng Mai was being pressed backwards so much she would still be capable of using such a move. However, Sheng Mai, who had seemed like an otherworldly fairy, had also paled slightly. It was obvious that it hadn't been easy for her to use the strength of 9 reincarnations just now. Did the grand reincarnation art also have such an effect? To condense the power of will and hope from 9 reincarnations and seal it between the eyebrows, and then have it erupt at the same time, the strength that could be released was several times that of usual. This was an extremely terrifying move. Lin Ming's grand reincarnation art was one that he perceived himself and not the original that was created by the master of the Holy Scripture. Thus, it had extreme differences with Sheng Mai's version. Even so, Lin Ming was well aware that the grand reincarnation art was incredibly difficult. And the 8th and 9th revolution would be even more so. The reason Sheng Mai could transform so much and fight a lower true divinity with her Empyrean limit cultivation, this was likely due to her being able to complete the 9th revolution of the grand reincarnation art. In terms of the Holy Scripture laws, Sheng Mai could be called someone that had reached the pinnacle. But Lin Ming's Holy Scripture and Heavenly Sutra veered off in opposite directions, one focused on the inner universe and one focused on the outer universe. Compared to Sheng Mai, who strode down a single path, Lin Ming was naturally behind her. Lin Ming didn't know Sheng Mai's exact age, but he could estimate that she was probably tens of thousands of years old. For her to arrive at this step with her age, this meant she had a chance of coming close to the boundary of those like the Immortal Sovereign and Azura Roadmaster in the future. However, as Lin Ming is astonished, so was Sheng Mai. That 9 revolution Red Lotus she used just now was one of her ultimate killing moves. Once she used it, even a lower true divinity abyssal might die. This was not being defeated or wounded, but possibly being killed. Sheng Mai didn't want to reveal such a technique on the stage, but Lin Ming was simply far too formidable. With her not being able to gain an upper hand after using her previous moves, she could only use this one. She didn't think that this move would be able to grievously wound Lin Ming, she only wanted to use it to ensure victory. But the result was that after this strike, nothing seemed to have happened to Lin Ming at all. He immediately stood up. Moreover, Sheng Mai's perception was connected to the sword energy she sent out. She felt that the originally endlessly growing sword energy that should have been able to swallow Lin Ming's vitality was in turn swallowed by him instead. Within Lin Ming's body there seemed to be some black vortex that could tear apart all. It slowly annihilated her strength, and even the highest laws of the Holy Scripture were slowly undone. How had he done this? As she recalled Lin Ming breaking apart her life-reaping sword, Sheng Mai felt increasingly in disbelief of what had occurred. This higher abyssal had actually managed to achieve such a boundary in the perception of laws. Was this because of his talent, or was it perhaps related to that eye between his eyebrows? Sheng Mai couldn't imagine just what sort of bloodline could be heaven-defying to such a degree. Not only was Sheng Mai shocked, but the elders of Deep King Road were also restless. They all knew how potent Sheng Mai's final 9 revolution Red Lotus was. Even Elder Deep Epoch would have to be careful facing such a strike, yet Lin Ming had blocked it. This fellow not only reached the pinnacle in strength and speed, but he even defied all common reasoning in the laws. This was simply incomprehensible. And at this time, something left the abyssals watching even more speechless. From the wounds on Lin Ming's arm and shoulder, the muscles began to wriggle. The demon avatar was beginning to reveal its fearsome defensive and regenerative capabilities. Sheng Mai's sword fingers had contained the power of will and hope of 9 reincarnations. If an ordinary abyssal were to touch just a little of it, they would fall over dead, yet Lin Ming was actually beginning to slowly restore his body. This was too ridiculous. Sheng Mai's eyes widened and a serious pressure fell over her heart. She had a premonition that this battle would be incomparably difficult, and there was even a chance that she could lose. And if she lost, then didn't that mean she would have to dual cultivate with this monster? Thinking of this, Sheng Mai's stomach tumbled as if she wanted to vomit. Even though she felt something special about Lin Ming, even though there was a strange connection she sensed, she absolutely couldn't accept sharing a bed with this monster. To her, this was as bad as being killed. Chapter 21-26, The Finale. Chapter 21-26, The Finale. For a time, The atmosphere on stage turned solemn. All the abyssals had fallen silent. Lin Ming and Sheng Mai stood apart from each other, their gazes steady. Lin Ming's mortal body began to slowly regenerate. The abyssals present stared blankly on as Lin Ming's arm wound nearly stitched itself back together and they couldn't sit still anymore. What is Her Highness the Holy Demoness doing? How come she's not doing anything and is just watching that fellow's body repair itself? What use is there in talking about any sort of martial arts honor? Then again, this was a fair battle to begin with, and that ninth elder was injured by the Holy Demoness, so attacking him while his down is completely justified. So how come the Holy Demoness hasn't attacked? A young abyssal anxiously asked. Most of the abyssals here were Sheng Mai's supporters and only a few of them wished that Lin Ming could win. It isn't that Her Highness the Holy Demoness doesn't wish to attack, but that she cannot attack. The Holy Demoness consumed a considerable amount of energy just now, so how could she fight again so soon? An older abyssal said. By this point, the battle had reached a burning hot stage. Lin Ming and Sheng Mai's battle just now had exchanged wound for wound. If they continued to fight, if this battle became any more brutal, then there would be dire combat techniques that came out next, such as someone burning their source soul force or blood essence as the price for greater strength. And in this competition, this sort of behavior was against the rules. After all, this was only a mere comparison of skills to begin with and not a life or death slaughter. Any moves that caused permanent losses or where both sides were forced to perish together were forbidden. Because if one person used such a technique then everyone else would too, and the gains simply weren't worth the losses. As the older abyssal spoke, everyone looked towards Sheng Mai. At this time a continuously growing strength rose up within her, slowly supplementing her strength. Just now she had used her 9-revolution red lotus, fusing together the power of hope and desire from 9 reincarnations. This was tantamount to 9 Sheng Mai's attack together, and thus the amount of demon power that she consumed was 9 times that of her all-out attack. If an ordinary martial artist or abyssal were to use such an attack, then they would nearly exhaust themselves to nothing. However, Sheng Mai had only slightly paled and her strength was slowly recovering. This was because with the power of life from the holy scripture laws, Sheng Mai's blood vitality and physical strength were able to last much longer and restore themselves faster than those of a martial artist of the same level. As this scene fell into the eyes of the abyssals present, they were all numb with amazement. Lin Ming's regenerative abilities were astonishing, but so were Sheng Mai's. Lin Ming and Sheng Mai, they were nothing but 2 monsters. Not only did they possess terrifying strength, laws, and speed, but their endurance was also at abnormal levels. If one wished to fight against such freaks then one couldn't have any weakness at all, because these two had no weakness and any weakness one possessed would become the reason for defeat. In the entire dark abyss, just who would dare compete with them? I will not lose here. Sheng Mai glared at Lin Ming, her icy eyes shimmering. Whoever could defeat her at the same boundary could dual cultivate with her. These were words spoken by her own mouth and confirmed by Deep King Road. It was impossible for her to go back on her words. She didn't wish to compromise with Lin Ming, and compromise was likely useless to begin with. She could only put forth everything she had in this battle and use the endlessly growing strength within her body to drain Lin Ming dry of strength. And coincidentally, Lin Ming also had such a plan. Sheng Mai's killing move was the 9-revolution red lotus, and this was something that Lin Ming simply wasn't able to deal with right now. Once they fought then he would surely be injured. The only positive part of this was that Sheng Mai couldn't utilize this move multiple times because it consumed too much energy. Thus, Lin Ming prepared to use his strength to outlast Sheng Mai and achieve victory in the end. Lin Ming knew that Sheng Mai had the laws of life to rely on. But, Lin Ming was even more confident in what he relied on, because he still had his true self within his demon avatar. Lin Ming couldn't use his true self to fight, thus he couldn't do anything to Sheng Mai right now because he couldn't display his peak strength. However, Lin Ming's true self resided in his demon avatar's inner world and he could continuously transmit strength into his avatar's body. In terms of endurance, who could compete with him? This was the same as 2 fighting against 1. Moreover, the 2 of them had abnormal levels of endurance. As long as the fight continued at a steady pace then he would emerge victorious in the end. After an incense stick of time passed, Lin Ming could feel that his wounds had more or less healed. Then, he moved. When he moved this time he didn't even use the black dragon spear, but simply punched out with his fist. His fist was like a meteor, thundering down onto Sheng Mai's chest. Wang, wang, wang. Abyssal laws condensed into a vortex of runes around Lin Ming's fist, forming an all-swallowing black hole. Several blood dragons rushed out from this black hole, roaring and snapping their jaws at Sheng Mai. Each of these blood dragons contained the power of swallowing. In truth, they were similar to Famine's tentacles. Swallowing laws. All of the abyssals watching could see this clearly. In the dark abyss, only a small minority of higher abyssals could grasp this tyrannical and overbearing law which allowed one to swallow the strength of others for one's own use, to swallow the flesh and blood of others as one's own nourishment. This was an extremely cruel and evil law, one envied by all abyssals. This brat, how can he understand the swallowing laws? Everything good has been taken by him. At this time, no one doubted Lin Ming's bloodline. For him to possess the swallowing laws was well within reason, because the swallowing laws were one of the signs of a higher abyssal. Facing these blood dragon tentacles, Sheng Mai didn't dodge. Her delicate eyebrows furrowed together and the sword in her hands came slashing down, severing all the tentacles. Ca. Sword light radiated outwards. Blood flew out into the air. Sheng Mai had already planned to engage Lin Ming in a battle of endurance. Thus, she naturally wouldn't let go of any chances to exchange attacks with him. She believed that with her laws supporting her she would eventually be the one to persist until the end. Lin Ming was truly abnormal, but in this aspect he might not be able to compare with her. Moreover, when comparing endurance, the truth was that it was also a battle of willpower. If one possessed great willpower, this often allowed them to surpass their own limits. Sheng Mai was confident in her own willpower, because no matter what she could not lose this battle. She no longer had an escape path left open to her. She didn't dare to imagine herself being pressed down beneath the gigantic body of this abyssal and just how disgusting and stomach-wrenching that would be. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The intense collision stirred up raging waves of energy and caused the light barrier of the Deep King force field to violently tremble. In a breath of time, Lin Ming and Sheng Mai exchanged over 100 moves. They fought speed with speed and didn't pause their onslaught against each other. They tried to preserve as much strength even as they tried to use up their opponent's strength. This was a short but furious battle that was extremely taxing on their energy. At this time, both Sheng Mai and Lin Ming naturally discovered each other's plans. They had come up with the same idea to win. Sheng Mai's eyes lit up with blazing fighting intent and the corners of her lips curved up in a smile. And while Lin Ming's eyes remained indifferent, his heart was filled with confidence. They both brimmed with confidence because they both believed in their secret cards that gave them endurance. As the fight heated up it became increasingly intense and savage. Many abyssals only saw a great storm rise up within the Deep King force field. But as for the exact process of the fight, none of them were able to clearly see what was occurring. They are comparing endurance. It seems that the difference in strength between the two of them is too minor, so neither can do anything to the other. Thus they have decided to use time to settle victory and defeat. An abyssal elder said on the side of Deep King Road. Her Highness the Holy Demoness possesses a horrifying level of endurance, let alone abyssals at the same level. Even true divinity level abyssals might not be able to compare with her. But her opponent is also a monster. From him, it seems anything is possible. Her Highness the Holy Demoness might not be able to win, another elder of Deep King Road said. In Deep King Road, the status of the members present was decided by strength. This elder's status was below Sheng Mai's, thus when he spoke of her he had to use a respectful tone. But at this time, Deep Epoch chuckled. He said, "The battle has already gone this far, and I'm beginning to see things differently. Perhaps losing might not be a bad thing at all." "Oh, you are meaning. The ancient Aeon sect doesn't know where the ninth elder comes from either. After this battle, we will look up more information on him. The truth is that if the Holy Demoness doesn't marry for the rest of her life, that isn't a plan at all. Although she might not care about it, her bloodline is so excellent. If it isn't inherited by her descendants, then wouldn't it just be wasted? We have to find a way to marry her off." And if my Deep King Road's holy demoness were to marry, then if we look through the entire dark abyss, just who can match up with her? This ninth elder came out of nowhere, and although I might not like him too much, I have to acknowledge that he is the best possible candidate. As Deep Epoch spoke, the other elders nodded in agreement. Indeed, this was true. In their eyes, Lin Ming was truly an indisputable top choice. The Dark Abyss was a land that revered powerhouses above all, and if a higher abyssal like Lin Ming wished to choose someone to marry, then there would be countless abyssal women who would desperately flock to him. In the abyss, powerful and rugged abyssals, those with towering and thick builds, if they possessed enough strength, then they were far more welcomed than the pretty and handsome male incubuses amongst the succubus demon race. And Lin Ming's strength, his ferocious and bulging muscles, all of that was perfectly aligned with this point. However, they never imagined that Sheng Mai was simply unable to accept the aesthetic sense of the abyssal demons. She absolutely could not. Chapter 21-27a, The Finale. Chapter 21-27a, The Finale. On the Deep King Wheel, Lin Ming and Sheng Mai's battle continued. The two of them maintained their extreme speed. Every time they exchanged moves was like a collision of planets. Sheng Mai's wings stretched out. Howling gales wrapped around her body, her figure drifting in an unpredictably bizarre fashion. Whoosh! The black dragon spear cut through the void, savagely tearing towards Sheng Mai's chest and piercing through. In that moment, the hearts of many abyssals tightened. But in the next moment that Sheng Mai vanished, leaving behind only the black dragon spear, it had been nothing more than an afterimage. The true Sheng Mai had already appeared behind Lin Ming. Her sword came falling down, sword light recklessly gushing out like a black tide, tumbling and roaring. In that instant, from within the inner world of Lin Ming's demon avatar, the heretical god tree appeared. The air filled with demonic energy as a bone tree drilled towards the heavens. Demonic fire and thunder howled out, tainted with the power of demons as it welcomed the turbulent sword light. Bang! The sword light and Lin Ming's demon power exploded and vanished together. Lin Ming didn't even turn his head. The black dragon spear came roaring out behind, the spear point drawing a full moon as he struck out in a circle. Sheng Mai's body was blown away like a flower petal by this horrific strength. Her protective demon essence violently shook and she couldn't help but gather her wings together to resist Lin Ming's strike. Whoosh! Beneath the tremendous impact force, Sheng Mai was sent hurtling away like a meteor. She crashed into the Deep King force field's light barrier. But, before the abyssals watching could even cry out in alarm, her figure instantly disappeared. And in the next moment the black dragon spear struck the area Sheng Mai had just vanished from. A terrifying explosion rang out once more. The fierce intensity of this battle left the abyssals watching dizzy with wonder. Most of the abyssals present were simply unable to see the fighting process between Sheng Mai and Lin Ming. Only the constantly shivering Deep King force field, and the flashes of shadows all around the light barrier reminded them just how cruel and savage this battle was. Time marched on. 2 hours, 4 hours. This intense fight continued for all this time without a single chance for anyone to catch their breath. Every move was met head-on with equally terrifying resilience. Lin Ming and Sheng Mai both relied on their potent restorative abilities to continue this battle. As time passed, Sheng Mai felt more and more alarmed. This battle had indeed gone as she had expected. It beat on with a rhythm of dragging on the battle, with both parties being drained of energy. But although this was the process she expected, it might not be the result she expected. Lin Ming's endurance was simply far too dreadful. If anyone were to consume energy at such a rate, then let alone an Empyrean-level abyssal, even a true divinity might have already been completely exhausted, like a dried-up oil lamp. But Lin Ming was able to continue onwards, even becoming increasingly brutal as the battle raged on. Sheng Mai's strength, on the other hand, was being weakened. Although the Holy Scripture laws were heaven-defying, the so-called endlessly growing still had its limits. If the battle continued like this, then the first one to fall over might be herself. Sheng Mai's speed had already slowed down. This scene fell into the eyes of all the abyssals watching. In terms of endurance, Deep King Road's holy demoness was unexpectedly losing to the ancient Aeon sect's ninth elder. Endurance was an important aspect of a martial artist's strength. In truth, from the very start, from feeling alone, Lin Ming consumed more energy than Sheng Mai did. This was because in terms of his size, the might of his moves, all of it used more strength than Sheng Mai. Even so, the first one who wouldn't be able to persist was Sheng Mai. Ca. Another ray of sword light slashed down towards Lin Ming before being scattered by his strength. The moment the sword light shattered, the black dragon spear in Lin Ming's hands thrust out like a viper, straight towards Sheng Mai's left rib. This was an extremely tricky attack angle. However, Sheng Mai didn't dodge. Her left wing suddenly spread out and cut down at the black dragon's spear. Catcher! The sound of a fierce collision rang out. From the surface of the black dragon's spear, chips of bone scattered out. But Sheng Mai's left wing had nearly been pierced through by the black dragon spear and was now dripping with blood. In that moment Lin Ming's eyes flashed with surprise. Sheng Mai had relied on nearly just the strength of her mortal body to resist this strike, and didn't use her demon power at all. Otherwise her wing wouldn't have been torn by his spear strike. But then, Sheng Mai stretched out her arm and grabbed hold of the black dragon spear. Her delicate and exquisite jade-white arm wrapped around the thick black dragon spear, clasping the shaft right beneath her arm. Ka. All around Sheng Mai, the void shattered. An ice phoenix howled out and threw itself onto the black dragon spear. For a time, the black dragon spear began to rapidly freeze over, and as for Lin Ming who was gripping it, he suddenly paused. Cold energy recklessly rushed into Lin Ming's body from all directions. Sheng Mai had released her deep ice force field once more, but this time the force field had been reduced to the smallest area possible, all of it compressed onto Lin Ming's body. Without a doubt, she was risking everything on this move. From between Sheng Mai's eyebrows, the 9 revolutions red lotus began to shine brilliantly. The void seemed to overlap and shiver. The revolving lotus flower once again manifested into 9 revolutions of worlds. When these worlds were joined together, one could see mountains and rivers within them, plants and beasts and birds, a billion lives being born and destroyed. Within each world sat a cross-legged Sheng Mai. This was the power of hope and desire of Sheng Mai's 9 reincarnations. The 9 Sheng Mice gathered their hands together in prayer, their expressions one of supreme reverence. In that moment, their power of hope and desire gathered together, forming a golden river of stars that crashed down atop Lin Ming. Was this the final move? Lin Ming's pupils shrank. Sheng Mai didn't hesitate to suffer injuries in order to seal away his movement. All of this was in order to keep him at a close distance where she could use the 9 revolutions red lotus to engage in a final showdown with him. This was because she had discovered that in terms of endurance, she might not be able to overcome him. This time, seeing the 9 revolutions of worlds form into sword light that slashed down on him, Lin Ming's heart and mind were as still as water. From his inner world, the blood of Azura began to burn. Even Lin Ming's 3 avatars of essence, energy, and divine poured their strength into the demon avatar without reserve. A blinding radiance burst out from Lin Ming's eyes. In his inner world, the Azura wheel was fused with and covered by the power of demons. Then, the Azura wheel turned into a giant demon wheel that rose up from behind Lin Ming. Wild demon power filled the air. A peerless demon appeared, slowly pushing the wheel forwards. This was the demon phantom formed by the Azura phantom. The wheel contained thousands and millions of great demons roaring within. Inside, there was also the flesh and blood essence of the totem-level abyssal demon, Famine. As this demon wheel revolved, Lin Ming used both his hands and pushed outwards. Lin Ming had poured all of his strength into this demon wheel and now it welcomed Sheng Mai's 9 revolutions red lotus. Ka. Chapter 21-27b, The Finale. Chapter 21-27b, The Finale. The demon will cut down onto the 9 revolutions red lotus. Celestial bodies would be grinded apart by it, and even the river of time seemed to shake. During this fierce collision, the power of hope and desire from 9 reincarnations and the great demon will began to wear away at each other. The strength of all laws, every ray of light, space and time, beneath the impact of these 2 great strengths, everything seemed to stir up, forming visible beams of energy that fell down upon the Deep King force field in torrents. The Deep King force field's light barrier wildly shook. Because of the extended battle, the energy saved within the 12 totem poles was insufficient. Underneath this final impact, the Deep King force field wasn't able to withstand the enormous destructive force, and a tiny gap was ripped open. Peng! 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 From all over the force field, the abyssal phantoms that covered the array formation's light barrier began to explode together. Beams of law lights gathered together, shooting out from Deep King force field and recklessly spraying outward. These light beams were energy blades formed by the collision of Lin Ming and Sheng Mai. Each one possessed a terrifying penetrating force, destroying wherever it went. "Be careful!" An abyssal cried out in alarm. To some of the weaker abyssals, any one of these light beams could easily pierce through them and take their lives. The younger abyssals quickly retreated, even taking out their weapons to fend off these light beams. But at this time, the true divinity-level elders actually stepped forwards. They summoned protective shields of demon power that blocked all the light beams. They actually drained dry the energy from the totem poles. "This is just defying the heavens." Deep Epoch frowned. The Deep King force field was the sect-stabilizing array formation of Deep King Road. With Lin Ming and Sheng Mai's strength, they shouldn't have been able to break through it. However, they had actually managed to forcefully exhaust the energy contained in the array formation. At this time within the array formation, Lin Ming and Sheng Mai were in the center of the collision, both of them covered in blood. Sheng Mai's clothes were torn in numerous places. Her battle armor was broken and her long hair fluttered wildly about her. And Lin Ming was in an even more tragic state. His chest was smothered in blood. The 9 Revolutions Red Lotus had been broken apart by the demon wheel, but as the two halves passed by him it nearly split him in half. Although Lin Ming's wounds were heavier, he actually had more strength remaining. This was because within the inner world of Lin Ming's demon avatar, his true self and his 3 avatars were continuously supplying the demon avatar with energy. This was the source of Lin Ming's trump card. But in comparison, because Sheng Mai had already consumed a great deal of energy and the 9 Revolutions Red Lotus she used once more, her face was already pale white. She had used up all her strength. Lin Ming roared out and grasped the Black Dragon Spear. From beneath Sheng Mai's arm, the Black Dragon Spear crazily shook. "Catcher!" The cold ice that froze over the shaft of the Black Dragon Spear shattered, and even the bone armor atop the spear began to burst apart. Lin Ming violently dragged out the spear, pulling the Black Dragon Spear out from the wreckage of broken ice and bone. Sheng Mai's delicate eyebrows pressed together and a trace of blood dripped from the corners of her lips. The Black Dragon Spear had been pulled out from beneath her right arm, and because of the shattered bone cutting her as it was pulled out, her right side was covered in blood. Lin Ming's eyes flashed with a cold light. The power of the 9 stars of the Dao Palace boiled over from within him as he suddenly pierced out the spear. The spear point continued to tremble as the power of laws billowed outwards, shooting forth like a river of stars and releasing a terrifying brilliance that submerged Sheng Mai. Sheng Mai's pupils shrank. At this moment she could feel death approach. This scene was fixed in the eyes of those watching for eternity. The light of laws that danced in the air was like faded flower petals fluttering downwards. As for Sheng Mai shrouded in light, she was a black butterfly that had transformed into a fairy maiden. Her long hair danced about her and she barely managed to use her still movable left wing as a shield. Beneath this black wing, Sheng Mai's peerless looks were as cold and arrogant as a mountain of ice. Her eyes weren't focused on the spear that thrust towards her with cold brilliance, but the approaching Lin Ming's face. In her bright pupils, the image of Lin Ming was clearly reflected. This sight seemed to touch something in Lin Ming's heart. Just as the Black Dragon Spear was about to stab into the point between Sheng Mai's eyebrows, Lin Ming turned his arm, changing the trajectory of the spear slightly so that it passed Sheng Mai's cheek and turned out instead. Puff! Lin Ming's spear light stabbed into the Deep King force field's light barrier. The Deep King force field had originally been exhausted of energy and was now no longer capable of resisting Lin Ming's strike. The Black Dragon Spear directly pierced through it. Ka. Atop the barrier of light, cracks began to spread out like a spiderweb, proliferating at a rapid pace. In a mere moment, the egg-like light barrier burst apart. Energy fell down like rain, sprinkling down onto the world like the endless stars glittering in the skies. And in the inexhaustible rain of light, Lin Ming and Sheng Mai stood in the void. The black dragon spear's point was only 3 inches away from Sheng Mai's beautiful face, where it cut off a strand of her black hair. Time came to a standstill. Sheng Mai looked at Lin Ming, an indescribable look emerging in her eyes. She had been defeated. In a frontal battle, she had actually been defeated by a higher abyssal who had a lower cultivation than she did. This truth was hard for her to accept. At this moment, an inexplicable feeling began to rise up in her heart. This abyssal that held the spear in front of her left her confused and muddled. Although he was close, she couldn't see through him at all. After the Deep King force field exploded and while the rain of light was still silently falling, all around the battlefield the entire audience had fallen silent. The winner and loser of this battle was already clear to all. In that last spear strike, if Lin Ming hadn't held back, then Sheng Mai wouldn't even be able to stand there right now. He won. He really won. The elders and disciples of the ancient Aeon sect felt as if they were living a dream. Within the dark abyss, Deep King Road's holy demoness was no different from a living legend, but now that living legend had been beaten by an elder of their ancient Aeon sect, and this elder had even jumped ranks to do so. Did this mean that their ancient Aeon sect would develop a relationship of marriage with Deep King Road? As the disciples of the ancient Aeon sect thought of the numerous rumors concerning Deep King Road's holy demoness and as they recalled the countless higher abyssals that chased after her, they couldn't help but gulp. While they admired and envied Lin Ming at the same time, they felt that everything that just occurred was too fantastical. But as for the other small influences around the ancient Aeon sect, they were so envious that their eyes turned red. However, none of them dared to speak out at this time. In the dark abyss, strength was the ultimate deterrence. Lin Ming had already proven his own strength. As long as he didn't perish, then in the future his accomplishments would even surpass those of Sheng Mai. Facing such a ruthless person, who dared make snide remarks? In fact, the abyssals that taunted Lin Ming before began to feel weak at heart. They were all afraid that Lin Ming would remember their taunts. Her Highness the Holy Demoness really lost. A Deep King Road elder said with deep emotion, unsure of what feeling was in his heart. There was a bit of loss but also a bit of expectation. Who could say what would happen in the future? What do we do? An elder asked Deep Epoch. Deep Epoch waved his hand, saying, "We do what we have to do, and that is naturally to conduct the grand jewel cultivation ceremony. But this matter needs to be reported to the higher-ups. The sovereign is secretive in his movements, a dragon that cannot be seen, so the report shouldn't be for him. Instead, report this matter to the Great Elder." In Deep King Road, above Deep Epoch was an upper true divinity level abyssal elder. Besides Deep, this elder could be called the highest authority of Deep King Road. Chapter 21-28, Marriage. On the Deep King Wheel, the dense rain of light subsided. From all around, many of the surrounding disciples and elders of the abyssal influences had yet to respond. Then, many abyssals began to quietly discuss amongst themselves. To them, this scene was a dream they never would have imagined. Those from Deep King Road, are you ready to announce the end of the match? At this time the great elder of the ancient Aeon sect stood up, drawing the gaze of many nearby abyssals. Without a doubt, the ancient Aeon sect had been able to feel proud and overjoyed, and even earned a great deal of face in front of everyone. There were many elders of large influences present who coveted the status of the ancient Aeon sect. As they looked at Aeon God, their complexions were filled with envy and unwillingness. The Deep King Road elder responsible for overseeing the competition awkwardly coughed. Then, he stepped onto the Deep King wheel and loudly announced, "The battle has ended. The victor is the 9th elder of the ancient Aeon sect." The stag remained silent. Many abyssals discovered that even until now, they didn't know what the name of this ancient Aeon sect's 9th elder was. Then, concerning marriage, I believe that everyone from Deep King Road will not forget, right? Aeon God spoke out once more, looking towards the elders of Deep King Road before glancing over at Sheng Mai. At this time, the elders of Deep King Road all had various emotions written on their faces, and as for Sheng Mai, her complexion was paler than normal. In Lin Ming's last strike, because of the laws Lin Ming used, the strangely familiar aura, and finally Lin Ming suddenly holding back. A weird feeling began to surge in her heart. This was something that tickled her mind, yet she wasn't able to place a finger on it. For a time, Sheng Mai thought she wanted to understand just where this strange feeling originated from. But after hearing Elder Eon God's words, everything she felt towards Lin Ming suddenly disappeared. In her pupils, Lin Ming's demonic incarnation was reflected in them. This fierce black monster had shattered scales all over his body, and the 2 bone blades that jutted out from his elbows had broken off. His entire body was covered in blood. It seemed that his injured were far more serious than her OWNT this time. His dark brown eyes were also gazing back at her. By now, Lin Ming had already undone the Azura body metamorphosis and had returned to a normal size. Of course, this was in comparison to the life forms of the 33 heavens. He was still towering and thickly built, and even though Sheng Mai was tall herself, she only reached just below Lin Ming's chest. Sheng Mai simply found this hard to accept, that this monster had defeated her and would soon obtain her. Ha ha ha. At this time, Elder Deep Epoch laughed and his foots came hurrying forwards. He appeared atop the Deep King wheel, right between Lin Ming and Sheng Mai. What Elder Eon God said is correct. Since your sect's 9th elder has won, then we will naturally fulfill our side of the promise and allow our Deep King Road's holy demoness to marry your 9th elder in a grand dual cultivation ceremony. Elder Deep Epoch readily agreed, causing the elders of smaller influences to be startled. As for the younger abyssals, they were despondent upon hearing this. Even if Sheng Mai didn't marry Lin Ming, they were clearly aware that it still wouldn't be their turn. But, upon knowing that the most perfect goddess in the entire dark abyss would be ravaged by such a towering and ferocious abyssal demon, they still found this somewhat hard to accept. This sort of feeling was like seeing the most perfect thing in existence being polluted. As for Sheng Mai, her eyelids jumped up as she heard Elder Deep Epoch's words. She looked at Lin Ming but didn't speak. However, the light in her eyes clearly turned much colder. Elder Deep Epoch is truly refreshing. Eon God laughed. Then, tomorrow my ancient Eon sect will prepare a dowry gift to settle this marriage. How about it? Haha. Elder Eon God is too courteous. We can discuss this wedding further. After all, this must be a grand occasion for all of us. Elder Deep Epoch didn't oppose Lin Ming marrying Sheng Mai. In his opinion, this would also be something beneficial to Deep King Road. Then about the date of this marriage ceremony, Elder Eon God continued to say. What he planned was to publicly confirm a marriage date so that they could avoid future nights of headaches. Although Lin Ming had seemingly appeared from nowhere, and his victory of Sheng Mai had left all the abyssals bewildered, in the end Lin Ming was still an elder of their ancient Eon sect. If the ancient Eon sect could use Lin Ming to climb the big tree that was Deep King Road, then Elder Eon God would absolutely love for this to occur. After all, the ancient Eon sect had suffered crisis after crisis and countless influences were eyeing them, waiting for them to break apart so that they could be replaced. Haha, Elder Eon God is quite impatient. However, there is still some time until the demon god's tomb opens, so if we do hold the dual cultivation ceremony before then, although it may be a bit hastily done, I don't see any reason why we can't. Deep Epoch rubbed his chin and looked at Lin Ming. According to any logical reasoning, it would be best for Lin Ming to emerge from the demon god's tomb before the grand dual cultivation ceremony was held, since the demon god's tomb was filled with dangers and anything could happen within. However, in Deep Epoch's view, a peerless genius like Lin Ming would likely have a ridiculously tough life. At the very least, nothing should happen to him in the demon god's tomb. If they could hold the grand dual cultivation ceremony ahead of time, then this would be proof that Deep King Road trusted Lin Ming, and this would help them strengthen their relationship with Lin Ming in the future. Deep Epoch and Eon God continued to agree with each other, seeming as if they would almost put the marriage on today's agenda, and by this time, Sheng Mai finally found it hard to remain calm. If she didn't say anything, then she feared that within several days, she would have to marry Lin Ming in front of all these abyssals. It just so happened that because of the demon god's tomb, all of the influences that were connected to Deep King Road had gathered here. All of them had been sent written invitations. She sent a sound transmission to Lin Ming. I must speak with you. What is there to talk about? Lin Ming glanced at Sheng Mai. Seeing her pale face, a strange feeling stirred in his heart. This was an extremely complex feeling, one that seemed to originate from dark feelings, from the pleasure of taking revenge. But inevitably, it also came from Lin Ming's unclear feelings about Sheng Mai. Lin Ming's deepest impression of Sheng Mai had been her cold and callous actions as she took his eternal soul and left. But, when he had lost his strength and was completely dried up, on the verge of death, it was in that moment that he felt the warmth and fullness brought about by Sheng Mai's source soul force and life essence. If it weren't for those things she left him, then he wouldn't have been able to understand the samsara of life and death before he perished, and he wouldn't have been able to comprehend the grand reincarnation art and slowly restore himself. Sheng Mai gave Lin Ming a life-saving grace. However, Lin Ming couldn't clearly see through her actions or reasons. This caused Lin Ming to subconsciously be on guard against her, not trusting her, but also caring for her. Because of his actions and the upcoming promise of dual cultivation, Sheng Mai was unable to maintain the cold arrogance of her heart. Instead, she nervous and panicked due to the upcoming agreement, and Lin Ming couldn't help but take pleasure in this sort of revenge. Even though Lin Ming had experienced so many things in his life, it was still hard for him to rid himself of this part of human nature. Who are you? Where did you come from? What's your name? Sheng Mai asked Lin Ming. Who I am, where I come from, those aren't things you need to concern yourself with. As for my name, you can call me Ninth Elder. Lin Ming didn't plan to tell Sheng Mai about his own status. Even if he inwardly wanted to believe in Sheng Mai, she was still someone that worked from the Soul Emperor and someone who had complicated relations with Deep King Road. There was even a chance that she was an abyssal demon, a mortal enemy to him. In this sort of situation, Lin Ming couldn't guarantee that Sheng Mai wouldn't betray him if she were threatened by someone or tempted by something. For instance, if she were tempted by that peak of martial arts so longed for in her dreams. Moreover, Lin Ming had a faint feeling that to a certain extent, Sheng Mai was being controlled by the Soul Emperor. At the very least, the Soul Emperor was aware of all her actions. In this case, if Sheng Mai were to know who he truly was, then it would be far too dangerous. After listening to Lin Ming's words, Sheng Mai frowned, clearly unsatisfied with his reply. After all, they would likely have to conduct the grand dual cultivation ceremony soon, and he wouldn't even tell her his name. I want to make a deal with you, Sheng Mai icily said. She was already disinclined to banter with Lin Ming. The brief spell of goodwill towards him that had magically appeared from nowhere had disappeared. Even Sheng Mai couldn't clearly explain why she would have even the least bit of favorable impression towards this barbaric abyssal demon that was brimming over with an evil aura. What kind of deal? Lin Ming's eyes rose, his attention suddenly stirring. Chapter 21-28, Marriage. On the Deep King Wheel, the dense rain of light subsided. From all around, many of the surrounding disciples and elders of the abyssal influences had yet to respond. Then, many abyssals began to quietly discuss amongst themselves. To them, this scene was a dream they never would have imagined. Those from Deep King Road, are you ready to announce the end of the match? At this time the great elder of the ancient Aeon sect stood up, drawing the gaze of many nearby abyssals. Without a doubt, the ancient Aeon sect had been able to feel proud and overjoyed, and even earned a great deal of face in front of everyone. There were many elders of large influences present who coveted the status of the ancient Aeon sect. As they looked at Aeon God, their complexions were filled with envy and unwillingness. The Deep King Road elder responsible for overseeing the competition awkwardly coughed. Then, he stepped onto the Deep King wheel and loudly announced, "The battle has ended. The victor is the ninth elder of the ancient Aeon sect." The stag remained silent. Many abyssals discovered that even until now, they didn't know what the name of this ancient Aeon sect's ninth elder was. Then, concerning marriage, I believe that everyone from Deep King Road will not forget, right? Aeon God spoke out once more, looking towards the elders of Deep King Road before glancing over at Sheng Mai. At this time, the elders of Deep King Road all had various emotions written on their faces, and as for Sheng Mai, her complexion was paler than normal. In Lin Ming's last strike, because of the laws Lin Ming used, the strangely familiar aura, and finally Lin Ming suddenly holding back, a weird feeling began to surge in her heart. This was something that tickled her mind, yet she wasn't able to place a finger on it. For a time, Sheng Mai thought she wanted to understand just where this strange feeling originated from. But after hearing Elder Aeon God's words, everything she felt towards Lin Ming suddenly disappeared. In her pupils, Lin Ming's demonic incarnation was reflected in them. This fierce black monster had shattered scales all over his body, and the 2 bone blades that jutted out from his elbows had broken off. His entire body was covered in blood, and it seemed that his injuries were far more serious than her own. At this time, his dark brown eyes were also gazing back at her. By now, Lin Ming had already undone the Azura body metamorphosis and had returned to a normal size. Of course, this was in comparison to the life forms of the 33 heavens. He was still towering and thickly built, and even though Sheng Mai was tall herself, she only reached just below Lin Ming's chest. Sheng Mai simply found this hard to accept, that this monster had defeated her and would soon obtain her. Ha ha ha. At this time, Elder Deep Epoch laughed and his foots came hurrying forwards. He appeared atop the Deep King wheel, right between Lin Ming and Sheng Mai. What Elder Eon God said is correct. Since your sect's 9th elder has won, then we will naturally fulfill our side of the promise and allow our Deep King Road's holy demoness to marry your 9th elder in a grand dual cultivation ceremony. Elder Deep Epoch readily agreed, causing the elders of smaller influences to be startled. As for the younger abyssals, they were despondent upon hearing this. Even if Sheng Mai didn't marry Lin Ming, they were clearly aware that it still wouldn't be their turn. But, upon knowing that the most perfect goddess in the entire dark abyss would be ravaged by such a towering and ferocious abyssal demon, they still found this somewhat hard to accept. This sort of feeling was like seeing the most perfect thing in existence being polluted. As for Sheng Mai, her eyelids jumped up as she heard Elder Deep Epoch's words. She looked at Lin Ming but didn't speak. However, the light in her eyes clearly turned much colder. Elder Deep Epoch is truly refreshing. Eon God laughed. Then, tomorrow my ancient Eon sect will prepare a dowry gift to settle this marriage. How about it? Haha. Elder Eon God is too courteous. We can discuss this wedding further. After all, this must be a grand occasion for all of us. Elder Deep Epoch didn't oppose Lin Ming marrying Sheng Mai. In his opinion, this would also be something beneficial to Deep King Road. Then about the date of this marriage ceremony, Elder Eon God continued to say. What he planned was to publicly confirm a marriage date so that they could avoid future nights of headaches. Although Lin Ming had seemingly appeared from nowhere, and his victory of Sheng Mai had left all the abyssals bewildered, in the end Lin Ming was still an elder of their ancient Eon sect. If the ancient Eon sect could use Lin Ming to climb the big tree that was Deep King Road, then Elder Eon God would absolutely love for this to occur. After all, the ancient Eon sect had suffered crisis after crisis and countless influences were eyeing them, waiting for them to break apart so that they could be replaced. Haha, Elder Eon God is quite impatient. However, there is still some time until the demon god's tomb opens, so if we do hold the dual cultivation ceremony before then, although it may be a bit hastily done, I don't see any reason why we can't. Deep Epoch rubbed his chin and looked at Lin Ming. According to any logical reasoning, it would be best for Lin Ming to emerge from the demon god's tomb before the grand dual cultivation ceremony was held, since the demon god's tomb was filled with dangers and anything could happen within. However, in Deep Epoch's view, a peerless genius like Lin Ming would likely have a ridiculously tough life. At the very least, nothing should happen to him in the demon god's tomb. If they could hold the grand dual cultivation ceremony ahead of time, then this would be proof that Deep King Road trusted Lin Ming, and this would help them strengthen their relationship with Lin Ming in the future. Deep Epoch and Eon God continued to agree with each other, seeming as if they would almost put the marriage on today's agenda. And by this time, Sheng Mai finally found it hard to remain calm. If she didn't say anything, then she feared that within several days, she would have to marry Lin Ming in front of all these abyssals. It just so happened that because of the demon god's tomb, all of the influences that were connected to Deep King Road had gathered here. All of them had been sent written invitations. She sent a sound transmission to Lin Ming. I must speak with you. What is there to talk about? Lin Ming glanced at Sheng Mai. Seeing her pale face, a strange feeling stirred in his heart. This was an extremely complex feeling, one that seemed to originate from dark feelings, from the pleasure of taking revenge. But inevitably, it also came from Lin Ming's unclear feelings about Sheng Mai. Lin Ming's deepest impression of Sheng Mai had been her cold and callous actions as she took his eternal soul and left. But, when he had lost his strength and was completely dried up, on the verge of death, It was in that moment that he felt the warmth and fullness brought about by Sheng Mai's source soul force and life essence. If it weren't for those things she left him, then he wouldn't have been able to understand the samsara of life and death before he perished, and he wouldn't have been able to comprehend the grand reincarnation art and slowly restore himself. Sheng Mai gave Lin Ming a life-saving grace. However, Lin Ming couldn't clearly see through her actions or reasons. This caused Lin Ming to subconsciously be on guard against her, not trusting her, but also caring for her. Because of his actions and the upcoming promise of dual cultivation, Sheng Mai was unable to maintain the cold arrogance of her heart. Instead, she nervous and panicked due to the upcoming agreement, and Lin Ming couldn't help but take pleasure in this sort of revenge. Even though Lin Ming had experienced so many things in his life, it was still hard for him to rid himself of this part of human nature. "Who are you? Where did you come from? What's your name?" Sheng Mai asked Lin Ming. "Who I am, where I come from, those aren't things you need to concern yourself with. As for my name, you can call me Ninth Elder." Lin Ming didn't plan to tell Sheng Mai about his own status. Even if he inwardly wanted to believe in Sheng Mai, she was still someone that worked from the Soul Emperor and someone who had complicated relations with Deep King Road. There was even a chance that she was an abyssal demon, a mortal enemy to him. In this sort of situation, Lin Ming couldn't guarantee that Sheng Mai wouldn't betray him if she were threatened by someone or tempted by something. For instance, if she were tempted by that peak of martial arts so longed for in her dreams. Moreover, Lin Ming had a faint feeling that to a certain extent, Sheng Mai was being controlled by the Soul Emperor. At the very least, the Soul Emperor was aware of all her actions. In this case, if Sheng Mai were to know who he truly was, then it would be far too dangerous. After listening to Lin Ming's words, Sheng Mai frowned, clearly unsatisfied with his reply. After all, they would likely have to conduct the grand dual cultivation ceremony soon, and he wouldn't even tell her his name. "I want to make a deal with you," Sheng Mai icily said. She was already disinclined to banter with Lin Ming. The brief spell of goodwill towards him that had magically appeared from nowhere had disappeared. Even Sheng Mai couldn't clearly explain why she would have even the least bit of favorable impression towards this barbaric abyssal demon that was brimming over with an evil aura. "What kind of deal?" Lin Ming's eyes rose, his attention suddenly stirring. "You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.